Kind of, sort of.
Track two, kind of, sort of. Let's go. Okay, there we go. We already did this, so I'm skipping this slide. Okay, I'll talk about him later, but I'm bringing you all the goody ideas, right? Again, I don't grab these from nowhere, right? A lot of these concepts might seem like concepts that follow the chain of command, as we'll do how I crafted the story in telling you why storytelling is important. And then I try to put in some, maybe tips and tricks around how it might pertain to anything in the adult industry. Because that was always the hardest part for me in anything, was like, great, so why do we even care? Something that's crazy about storytelling from a history or just human, right, perspective is that it's what has preserved knowledge since day one, right? From cave paintings to TED Talks. Any sort of story or how we as humans even look at the world is based off of sitting around a campfire telling stories, right? So it's a basic, drilled in there in your brain already, biological concept. Why reinvent the wheel? We already know people are going to use stories to explain how they're feeling or what they're doing. That's also part of how people have been able to build their culture and their community. The adult retail stores are not without their own stories, right? If even better stories, in my opinion. And they've also been a way for people to truly understand, not just explore the unknown, but teach lessons and morals, and to help describe experiences that other people might not be able to entertain in their mind, because we don't know what we don't know, right? So why is that? Why does it help my business, right? Because maybe you forgot you're selling to humans, by the way. We're not talking about creatures today. But storytelling is an important part of what turns someone's information into an action, into a doing. And typically, whether it's cognitive or you're doing it consciously or subconsciously, you're typically reacting to an emotion, whether you know it or not, right? Emotion is what drives all your decisions. Do you want to go to work today? Let's ask your brain. It depends on how you feel, right? What emotion do you feel today? Today, I feel like an ass because I got a lot of people to talk to today, at least Nathan and Tamara. So I'm going to tell them about my stuff, right? It's a much better day to go to work than, if it was dude, they canceled my webinar, right? But that's a whole other, change your mind, change all things. But so in selling, right, on the retail floor, or if you're selling, I don't know, your service, your business, what is the theme of my store? Why does my store exist, right? There's a reason, there's an emotion behind, hey, I was tired of working for other people, so I decided to work for myself, right? Sometimes that happens. Or I was, somebody that didn't understand a lot of this and went in head first and now wanted to share my experience with others, right? In part of doing that, you're making things memorable. People forget facts, right? What is that? 85% of all facts are made up on the spot or something like that. But they'll remember stories, right? They'll also remember the emotion if they don't remember the story, BTW. So in remembering those emotions and those stories, that helps build trust and connection. I don't know if you're new here, but we sell emotion. We sell intimacy, right? We sell sexual health and wellness. We're selling not just the concept, but the feeling, the emotion, the experience of pleasure and your birthright and everything that comes with it, right? I have not found a way in humans to do that without building any trust and connection, right? You have a horrible experience at a restaurant. If Tamara over here says, no, let's not go there. I went there last year and I just wasn't feeling it. It was a vibe check. I'm not going to mess with her vibe check. I didn't even go in there. It's already done, right? So it's all, again, part of, you need to have that connection, that emotion, and it needs to inspire some sort of action, right? Which all helps to humanize your message, because we're selling emotions and we're the only ones here that even care about emotions and are tending to other people's emotions and then selling to them, right? Okay, Tori, stop talking. What does that mean? Simply put, facts tell, right? Stories sell. So what you learned today, for the people that maybe just logged on, right? Here's the, this is the slide that you have to turn in to your teachers later, right? We're going to learn how to ask better questions that invite our customers to, the stories, spot emotional buying signals through behavior. That's just a Friedman, right? That I'm kind of putting in here because I think it's so important. And then using any of these stories in your pitches, your social media, and in your trainings, right? And then if we have time, I'll go over again how I made the exact framework, right? I took these cards and just answered the questions and then, added grammar. It's hard, but it's not that hard, right? Maybe not. And then I hope we have some more like time, but I'll probably sprinkle in some of my own stories that I've learned from everybody here, but we'll turn some real moments into these share-worthy stories. All right, before I like jump into it, is there anything, there's no questions, I don't think. Great. We're on the sparkling water too now. As I choke, pardon. All right, because my dad he's retired now. Sorry. An intellectual property lawyer, right? He was a patent lawyer. This is my don't nobody sue me or whatever. I am grabbing all this stuff from these three guys, right? Rawlings is my storyteller tactics guy. Seth is my marketing, and the Friedman Group. I don't have that book on me right now. It's on loan, but they are just kind of what the brainwashing of the limited did to me back, 25, 30 years ago when I was 16 years old, right? But just in a broader situation. This is a good book. You should get it. So I've tried to build all this for the retail sales and marketing environment. So the first thing, as I'm like looking at my, like, how do we get any stories that connect, right? What's the first thing? Well, story listening, right? It's actually the new selling. So our friend Rawlings would say you need to listen before you speak. Right. And that is part of, looking for some of the cues and identifying who your audience is or your customer is as they're walking in. Our good friend Godin, he'd say people buy identity, not just products. Right. And my guy Friedman, he would say we build trust through curiosity. So this is, you don't need to just listen to me. Who am I? I'm just a filter of all this information. Right. It's my unique filter, so enjoy, but I'm extrapolating from these guys. So that's kind of brings me to my last point here, where it's like, well, the number one thing that I get called on as a trainer, or I will call people on when I'm coming to speak or to help is, oh, you finding everything okay? Tends to be the welcome you get. And it's nobody's fault. A lot of this information hasn't been as easily accessible the way that we do any sort of commerce, right? You don't walk into Target or grocery stores right now and be like, oh, hello, I don't know what to cook for dinner today. I'm very curious. Can you guide me on my grocery shopping experience? It's not set up for that. It wouldn't be efficient, right? This is a capitalistic society. We're trying to figure out how to contribute to this economy and put food on the table, right? So my quick little tidbit here is, instead of that, just what brings you in today? Ryan's favorite, I think, is like, yeah, hey, you shopping for you, or you looking for someone else? This is the, oh, don't ask any open-ended questions. I'm trying to make it better verbiage for you guys, because I know that's lame, but it's true. You got to watch out if it's, did you find this okay? Yes, no, that's not where you want to go. You want to be able to open up a conversation with somebody so that you can build that. To kind of bring those concepts into just some like insights and maybe some examples, Godin would say the best marketers aren't loud, they're curious. So that means on the sales floor, it's your job to help uncover what that person is looking for in the experience. The great thing about being on a retail floor is, somebody had a mission in going there. It's not often that someone just trips, like it's not a convenience store, right? A lot of your stores are not in strip malls. And you have the benefit of being a destination, right? So let's use that, right? Use the open-ended questions to make sure you're finding what emotion, right? What experience the person that's walking in is looking for, because there's something, a little bit of a marketing story layer in there would be something to think about, which is, again, Godin here saying that we believe what we want to believe. And once we believe something, it becomes a self-fulfilling truth. That's what it is. It's not even me. These are the experts saying it. You don't have to just trust me, right? I just love that. I think that's just brilliant, because how many times have I convinced myself in a not great way, where it was like, hey, I'm not, who is that lady that my friend just introduced? I'm not set up for this webinar. I'm not anybody that wants to be blah, blah, blah. No, it's like, the truth is, in selling and or marketing, business in general, right? We believe, and so we're your consumers, right? They also love to lie to themselves. So we're very complicated, is all we're saying. Just know who you're talking to. I think in an adult retail setting, a customer might say like, I'm just browsing, or like, no, right. That's obviously kind of a tell for somebody to be like, I'm nervous, but I came here. So things like that, right? Make sure you are hiring to a strength that would be someone that likes to have a conversation. Because that is, I'm not, that's a whole different conversation, but I'm assuming you have a open and friendly and approachable person on your floor. So it shouldn't be hard to give that person some space, maybe put them into a section, give them some time, and then recheck, right? You don't need to hover over somebody, but you've noticed that they're nervous. You've noticed that they're in a section that usually comes with a lot of questions, because most of our stores don't have a lot of questions. So you know this person's like nervous, but they're interested in something. You can always reapproach and say, hey, I noticed you're hanging out in this section. Do you want the scoop? Do you want to know what's new? I've noticed you're hanging out in here. And so you're aware, I got testers over here. We just got restocked. Like, open up a friendly conversation, because how can you trust somebody if you don't talk to someone? Have you done it yet? I haven't. So again, this is a great just training caveat to make sure we're asking those open-ended questions. And then shut up and listen and watch the story unfold. Okay, this is my taking a pause to see if anybody's got questions, comments. Great. Okay, so then the second point in framing my why does this matter? Why is anything important? We got to decode the behavior, not just the words, which we already got to talk about a little bit. Look at how everything's just connected. Oh, it does that, right? So watch for behavior, not just the words. If you use hesitation or repeated product visits as cues, you can do that. I know a lot of our retail stores don't enjoy that because they are tracking conversion. So that can get a little bit, precarious. So do what you need to in the framework of what your management wants you to do. But if you see someone coming in a lot, then they definitely have some interest. Right. And it might just be time to approach that person. This is a reminder that people's actions speak volumes in retail or in online behavior. So a choice to not make a choice or choice to make a choice, they're usually, again, there's an emotion. They're usually rooted to something like desire, insecurities, or hope. We're selling pleasure. We're selling a fantasy. We're selling an emotion and an experience and everything that goes with it. It's very intimate, right? This is where, again, I say people lie to themselves sometimes, and sometimes we love it. Who hasn't decided it's hot girl summer and, this weekend we're just going to go do whatever? Is that who I am 24/7 at home? No, but that's part of the human experience, right? We can put on different hats. We can have different emotions. We can, especially in the fun stores that a lot of us either work and or own, right? It's you get to be that person for somebody. Another thing to kind of look for is the people in your store that maybe are hesitant to, like, they don't want to talk about, like, oh, okay, well, we're maybe like, looking in the anal section. It's going to happen. You guys see them. The longer that they linger, the more interested they're in. So it's, again, I'm not giving you sales tips to be the next best used car salesman, because I know it's been hard. We all have numbers to make, and hey, myself guilty is what I get wrapped up in the KPI of, like, oh, my boss wants me to make 10 phone calls a day. And if I don't get these in the timing, as I understand, we all have that framework, but you also need to be able to use, not just here, but use here to understand who you're selling to. This could be the huge life-changing point for some of your customers. Like, you don't know who you're affecting. So whoever's coming in, they're curious, find out what that story is. And I think some of you e-com people will be like, great, so many cool, like, KPI tricks for on floor. What am I going to do? Guess what, e-commerce? You guys have all the data. You can take all that boring data that tells you what's going on and use it to make a story that sells, right? That's also a fun spot. But so if someone's clicking on something, but maybe not adding it to their cart, that's a story there, right? Maybe they're interested. Maybe that brand has more information on the category in general, but not the reviews. Like, see what's going on there. Any sort of ideas, like, people don't want to buy it. It's that sometimes people don't want to buy it. It's that they feel judged while deciding to buy it or not, right? So just think maybe on the other side of why someone might be coming into a store or being hesitant to be in your store, clicking on something. Just be curious. Why does this person come at noon every day, 12 packs of Rhino? How could I make this experience maybe what they want, right? What's going on? Be open and curious. I'm not going to do that. We don't need a judge in our stores conversation anymore, but that's a That's a thing. How are we feeling, guys? The next sort of idea was just universal stories. Speak to what we all feel. Sell the outcomes, not the specs. I 100% get that there's so much innovation going on in this industry. We got to know what the osmolality is and the pH, and we need to know every ingredient and how many motors and is it whatever compliant, because our customers expect that from us. We're the experts. We're the only experts, and we're the only approachable experts at that. So make sure I understand that getting all those specs are important because people ask, but try not to get too wrapped up in not knowing a spec or not, right? Tell me why you specifically want that item that maybe I don't have it, or tell me why you need something with a spec of this. It could be that they have some misinformation and they're actually purchasing something that is harming their experience. So I don't know. I like to think that, like, you know, I want to be the hero, but I want the customer to be the hero too, right? I want to help you out, but I'm still really not selling you anything, right? I'm guiding you to your decisions, right? If anyone tells me to do anything, I get grumpy. And that could just be like, because I'm a September Libra, but case in point, if someone's going to tell you, you have to go, you have to give up pork because whatever reason we said so, even if I didn't eat pork, now I'm grumpy that you took my choice away. That's an emotion and I'm not going to do it, right? So lead people. You don't really have to sell them. And this will help with that customer's overall experience, right? Not only are they going to have a great story because you built connection, they could trust you, and they trust you more importantly with your emotions that you can now sell to. It helps them kind of overcome any of those anxieties. Helps couple reconnect without pressure was like my little marketing inspiration. If you needed to take a sound bite, but not a sound bite, whatever the wording of a sound bite is equivalent with you, right? I had a little too much fun researching this, as you can tell. So how do we apply some of these universal stories, right? Shame, confidence, curiosity, connection. They're not niche topics. They're human ones, right? I know we're special. Okay. We're a specialty retail market for sure, but we still sell to people. So we're not special in the emotions we have. We're special in the experiences we have to lead us to those emotions, right? So in kind of a story layer, let's just think of how we don't buy products. We buy this story that we're selling ourselves about the product. So I'm totally going to get laid tonight in this outfit with this smell and all this stuff. Or I'm totally going to, feel great for myself because I'm finally, getting to the root of some of my pain. Insert whatever story into the equation here, but it is your job as the person helping this human, right? Figure out what that experience is, right? Here's a cute industry application because I had a great a podcast with my friend Timothy last night. And we were talking about some of these things that I added to this presentation today because it still applies to his category, right? Lube and commodities, right? So kind of an industry application would be to remember that your lube display isn't all about like, okay, this one's thicker, this one's silkier, It's about which one am I going to trust you to lead me to, right? Based off of my emotion. Condoms aren't about latex. They're about protection. They're about being ready because how am I going to have the experience that I'm looking for with all of the things that I'm buying for if I can't turn my brain off and I can't relax and I can't, do the things that come with the adult responsibility of having adult pleasure. Tell the stories. Let people see themselves in the fantasy that they're looking for. Let them be insecure if they want to be insecure. Let them be confident if they want to be confident. Let them have their hot girl summer, right? Just Mel Robbins. Let them. You just guide them to be adventurous and safe. So the inspirational kind of product messaging here would be like, you're not choosing a toy, you're choosing a version of yourself who explores, who knows what they like, and who deserves to feel good. Aww. So all these stories, conversations, right? Just remember that everyday shit, pardon my French, is remarkable. Any day above ground is still remarkable. I don't know if I need to say that again, just for myself. I know there's so many other pressures out there and humans want control. I don't know why biologically that is wired into my head because it's never going to happen, but be sure to just capture everyday moments with your customers, especially if you're the one greeting them. Things that your customers tell you are great testimonies. Quotes are gold, right? But more than half of this presentation is based off of what I've learned from others or I've experienced from others, right? you're always welcome to say a customer told me like this made her feel like a goddess, or any other suggestions that come your way. That's fine. I do say star, star, star. I don't ever want someone to feel like they have to use their own personal testimony. That can get a little like not safe for some people or uncomfortable. I had someone come up to me and they were very concerned that like they not only needed a lot of product stats to sell, but needed to be able to experience all the things to understand it. And maybe they were not into said category that existed. Of course not. This is the fun house of all the products and choices. How can you make a choice if you don't know what the options are, right? And you never need to, if you're struggling with that, we'll figure out a way to make sure that you can open up these conversations, because you never need to use your personal life if you don't want to. Data sells as well. So just remember, it's not like your $10,000 Google SEO ad campaign. Typically that gets you the best success. I know they're very successful, but they come from my girlfriend telling me that, oh my God, did you try this? Because you really need to. Done, right? Or when somebody inspires me on a random Tuesday, right? What does this do? Oh, no one's ever asked me that, right? If it's not worth talking about, it's not worth marketing. He says that like 12 times in the book. And I try to remember that in more than just, right, if it's not worth talking about, it's not worth selling. Okay. But empower your staff, right? This is a great opportunity to collect those micro moments and to share them as a team, right? Use them in social media or training, or add them in signage, like depending on what your management's okay in your framework. It's okay to lean into what your story is. As one of my favorite quotes from one of my friends, and it's Oscar Wilde, is, be you, everyone else is taken. That is 100% true for your store branding. So just think of some I've got inspirational stories all over the place. And, a lot of times I get this toy or this lube, once helped a 65-year-old woman maybe have her first orgasm, and the sales associate, just like hugged and cried along with her. It's not me being a used car salesman. That's not me putting it on this PowerPoint slide and saying, everybody, this is the testimony, this is the medical claim, or whatever it is. It's not a pitch. It's just an emotion. It's a story to remember. And quite frankly, it makes my job a lot more worth doing. So the last kind of wrap up, kind of important storytelling recipe point is the circle of life, right? Tell them what you told them, tell them again, and then tell them that you're going to tell them, right? So in doing that, right, recognize your customers first. Are they the first time explorer? Are they the first timer? Are they the nervous person? Are they the explorer, right? And be sure to be that guide, not the hero. Say things like, wherever you are, we've helped someone like you. Don't lie, right? I'm assuming you've worked at the store for a few years, but I know my friends, your SWPA, my friend, who have you not helped, right? So even if I don't know, I can say, hey, I don't know, but I got resources to help you find out, or I've got data, or, just be authentic, be approachable, have some fun, right? We are still selling pleasure, right? Wellness, but pleasure as well. So let the customers be the hero too. Remember, you're not selling. This is a story. You're just helping guide people with all of your learning and information, and just loving what you do and hanging in your store, because you're helping people have a better life. Why is that not important? It's so important. Everybody that's walking in your store is on their own journey right now. That whole, you need to meet people where you're at. That is your job, to figure out and sell that, support, right, to that story that they're trying to live out, right? You don't need to control anybody's life. We can Mel Robbins again. Let them live their life, and you live theirs, but give them all the information first. So, right, we tell ourselves fables, and then we find proof to make them true. That is a story layer here, where you can kind of just take that and make sure that you're projecting in what you do when you're merchandising, when you're talking to your customers, when you're, bugging your parents, whatever's got to happen. So this is a kind of pop down, a kind of like, don't just segment by demographics. We had a whole other conversation on my web stream yesterday. It just happened. So I'm talking about it. I feel like I'm like dropping my web stream here, but no, it's fun. And if anybody wants to join, I would love that. But we were talking about how assuming a sale is important. You want to assume the yes, but you don't want to assume the budget. So kind of an idea around that is, don't maybe segment toys by your demographics, but build your character arc. Make sure you're cross merchandising based off of what emotions or, typical experiences that your customers are coming in. You can use storytelling as a guide for your merchandising, right? To help people feel from curious to confident, or shy to sexy, or even from a partner pleaser to a self-prioritizer, right? Something to just kind of leave you with in building your brand campaign. Another fun quote from one of the dudes here is that you don't have to know what you want when you walk in. You just have to be brave enough to explore. And then, like, we've got the rest, right? That's it. That's your job. There's your job description, right? Just be open and authentic. That's a whole other. So if you just turned in, blah, 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 Tori said some things, bullet point, bullet point. There is a worksheet I made, but I didn't post it. A worksheet at the end. Here's for the visual people, right? Here's your chart of why this works, backed by all three people. Here's some just quick principles. When you listen deeply, you're going to make a stronger message with your brand alignment, which helps build your immediate trust in retail, right? I won't speak about this verbatim, but right, I'll leave it a minute for those that want to screenshot. Okay, so as I'm wrapping up here, but am I on time? This is exciting. I mean, I still got a couple of diddlies, but I'm doing good, so we can have conversations. This is exciting. Okay, so remember that storytelling is not its own department, right? This is not the sales versus marketing conversation. This is all the storytellers. It's a mindset. It's everything you do. We're selling curiosity, confidence, trust, connection, and stories that stick. At least we get to talk about fun shit all day. Pardon my French. You don't have to talk about restructuring bank deposits or whatever you got to do. We get to talk about restructuring someone's narrative of their self right now on their pleasure journey, right? And because I got to just give you one more expert, again, people like us do things like this. That is marketing 101 in a nutshell. Typically we don't consent to any of the marketing or the way that the narratives are pushed into us, right? But it's important to know that they're being pushed into us, right? No judgment here. Not saying you can fix it. Really, anyone can fix it at this point. It's just where we are, right? I'm just giving you the tools so that we can, join in the Dumbledore army together and figure it out. And here's my cute thank you slide. And if you're interested in SWPA,